want to look at something called completing the square. The completing the square is quite an interesting concept. It's going to be very, very powerful for you when we start looking at a few things here later on in parabolas. Taking a look at this, where does this come from? Well, this comes from the fact that you could take x plus 3 and x plus 3 and you can FOIL them. And when you FOIL them, there's your first giving you x squared. There's your outers giving you 3x and 3x added together. And then finally, that gives you plus 9 there. And if you look, you've got x squared plus 6x plus 9. One of the things I want you to look at, though, is I want you to look at the relationship of this number, this positive 3 to here and to here. If you've noticed, this positive 3 to the 6 just means that it's doubled. And if you go to this number, you'll see that it's in fact squared. So having that as a powerful idea and a powerful tool for you, this completing the square stuff is going to be really, really easy. Case in point, take a look at this. So if you look at this, you know that that middle term is doubled. Take a look at this. That would mean that this would have to be plus 3. Now all you'd have to do is square it, put it here, and to complete the square, that's 9. And if you looked at it in terms of factored form, then, in terms of factored form, it's really, really easy. Then this would be x plus 3 and x plus 3. That would give you this polynomial. All right, so in fact, this is what we will refer to as a magic number. Take a look at this one, for example, the very, very next one. You look at this one, what you have to do, take that middle term, divide it by 2. You'll find out that this is plus 4. If you square it, that becomes 16. Plus 4 is your magical number here. So the polynomial then factors down to x plus 4 times x plus 4, or what we like to refer to as x plus 4 squared, perfect squared. Take a look at it again now with a negative. With a negative, this makes this a minus 5. A minus 5 then is your magic number, of course. Then you would square it to give you plus 25. So that's completing the square, x minus 5 times x minus 5, or just plain old x minus 5 squared. So basically all you have to do is take that middle term and you have to divide it by 2 and square it, and you get a perfect square every time. But now let's look at this little bit of a dilemma. Here we go. Let's take a look at the center one. And if we divide it by 2, we get positive 4. But when we square it, we don't get 16. We get another positive 4. So we have a problem here. The problem is this value right here. So let's go out and let's figure it out. What can we do? Well, simple. Let's look at the values that we know that work. So far, we know that works. I'm going to leave the value that doesn't work on the outside. There's your plus 4. So like we did earlier, we took this, we divided it in 2, we got our plus 4. That is our magic number right there. Everything is happy with that number. We're going to square it, and we're going to put in here plus 16. Now, I want to show you something, because what happens here is when we add the 16 to there, we can't just go out and add 16 without taking it away somewhere. So in fact, what we're going to do is we're going to subtract the 16 out here. Why? Because look at this. If I erase this bracket, which is right here, put that 16 back in. Look what you did. You added a 16 here, you subtracted a 16 here. So in other words, you're basically adding 0 to everything. You're not messing anything up. So let me put this bracket in here. Now, so there's our magic number. This now becomes x plus 4. There's your completed square. But how about all this stuff out here? What does that become? Well, this is 4 minus 16, which works out to be minus 12. There you go. Take a look at this. There's your y equals to your ax plus p. There's this thing right here. Boom. So your a, of course, being 1. Now, look what happens here then. You've got a vertex of minus 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, minus 12. Somewhere way down here is the minus 12. There's your nice little parabola opening upwards. Perfect. So when you complete the square, you end up getting it in this form. The nice thing is now you can sketch it, which makes it really, really powerful. Let's take a look again at another number here. Take a look at this one. Here we've got the same kind of idea. We know that this and this have to go together. Those are the things that work. This thing outside here we'll deal with later. So let's do that. Here we go. There's 2x squared minus 8x bracket plus 14 we'll leave out here. Now, the problem is we can't complete the square with this because we've got a stupid 2 sitting out here. Well, let's factor out the 2. When we factor out the 2, we got x squared minus 4x plus 14 way out here. Look at this. Now we can do it. Now we can go out and take this 4 divided by 2. We get minus 2. There's our magic number. Bring it over here. Square it. That becomes positive 4. So remember, if we added 4 here, we have to subtract 4 here. But look at the other problem that we have here. It's this crazy 2 out front. And remember, this 2 is distributed to everything. So if we distribute this 2 to this 4, guess what? That you're no longer adding just 4 here. You're adding 2 times 4. So why don't we just multiply it by 2 out here? Because if we're adding 2 times 4, which is 8 here, we have to subtract out the 8 here. So what we've got here now is you've got 2 x minus 2, there's that magic number, which we pop right in there, squared. We have 14 minus 8, and 14 minus 8 is 6. Oops, 6. Plus 6. So everything's fine there. So again, if you wanted to do your parabola, you know it's in this form, so it's pretty easy to do. You've got 1, 2 in your x, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up here, and 2 means it's going to be narrow and opening upwards. So there's basically what your parabola is going to look like, which is really, really cool. Let's take a look at something at least a little bit more challenging. When we look at this one tends to be really, really challenging because after all, we've got some negatives in there and all kinds of ugly things in there. So again, group what you have, which is right there. You're going to take the minus 3 out, leaving you with x squared. And look at this, minus. So minus 3 factored out of 18 is minus 6x. Leave the minus 12 on the outside. Same thing as before. Divide that by 2. You get a minus 3. There's your magic number. Square it. Goes there. So there's plus 9. So of course on the outside here you want a minus 9, but don't forget that this distributes into all of them. So you have to multiply this by minus 3 as well. So what do you get? You got minus 3 x minus 3 squared, and look what you have here. You have minus 12 plus 27, which works out to be plus 15. There's your parabola. So if you were to sketch this really quick, like, you know that this is 1, 2, 3, plus 15 is way somewhere up here, but now you're opening down and narrow. So it's going to look very much like this. That's completing the square.